All right, you radio aficionados, I'm back. All right, now uh, I removed 3 caps so far out of the first IF cam, and I was able to go through my bevy or collection of BC 314 booklets that I found on the internet. And one of the booklets actually has a picture of this IF cam, and it actually tells you what each capacitor is as far as like C9, C6. Then when you go to the parts list and look up C9, C6, it tells you the values. The parts themselves actually have a military number on them. Let's see if we can see this. I'm doing this video over. When I went to do this step, there's the number, CA277. So I know what each capacitor is, and I can find the value. Originally, the one manual I got is not a really good manual. Now, here's my self-checker. And notice the light is on steady when I push the button. That's a 0.1 capacitor. It's a plate bypass capacitor. That's a big no-no. Now, for some reason, they put the capacitors for the IF can in the IF can, but they've also put in some other capacitors for the circuit. So that gives them more room underneath, and it makes the radio smaller. All right. Normally you wouldn't put bypass capacitors for a plate of a tube in an IF can, but they did. Now we know. See, I tell you, when I find something that nobody else has told you, I make a video, and here it is. And there were 2 of them. Remember, there's 2 of them, these black licorice colored ones. They're bypassed for other circuits, and they're inside the IF cam. And one of them is dead shorted. And remember, this is a brand new radio, never been used before. Those capacitors have plates in them with silver on them. And when they were built, when the capacitors were built 70-something years ago, there was humidity in the air of the room where they were made. And that humidity slowly sits in there, and the plate is silver plated, and it slowly builds up black tarnish. Like if you ever seen a silver spoon, they tarnish very easily. But these caps are sealed. But in 70-something years, just the atmosphere that's inside that was trapped when it was made is enough to keep making it oxide or oxidize. And at some point, the cap becomes conductive and bad. Now, what makes it really bad is on this IF can, it's a very low frequency. I don't know if you'd see a peak, but a lot of people will tell you, you can tell the capacitor inside the IF can is bad because you can't get a sharp peak when you do the alignment. That's not necessarily true. Now, here's another case where it isn't true. These 2 big capacitors in there, they're plate bypass capacitors. When one of those gets leaky, what happens is that tube loses its gain. And that's what I had. Remember I told you, radio's working, I resurrected it, but it's not getting a lot of stations. It's not really loud. And that's one of the reasons. I'm probably going to find a few more of those caps. Now that I found one, I have to take the other 2 IF cans apart. See, it's sealed my fate. But just, my hope, you got to remember, I show you what I actually do. And if I know someone else has never gone this far with one of these radios, that's what I do. I go the extra mile. I don't sit with a little bow tie in my big room with all the test equipment all around me and tell you about how many models there are and how many were made. No, I'm in there. And I got this radio resurrected, and now I'm going to make it work even better. And even though I'm not really that happy with this radio, what drew me to this radio is those 2 tubes in the front end. Now, more modern ones have 2 tubes, but when you go into the AM broadcast band, one of them switches off. I don't know what happens in this radio. When I go higher in frequency, does one of those switch off? I don't know. I should have done that test before I went this far. I had the radio station working, and I could have very easily lifted the grid off each tube to see if one of them wasn't actually on. You know, it's you can look at the schematic, but it's kind of I won't say it's not clear. I've looked at enough of these with the wafer switches, and you're following up through it, and I've done it enough times, and I got fooled on the Hellcrafter SX42. One of those tubes switches off. So this tube, this radio has two tubes, but in one of the manuals I found, it says if you use two tubes in the front end with tuned coils, the radio becomes very narrow and it loses its fidelity. But that's what hammer operators want. You want, when you're copying code, you want a very selective radio. You want sensitivity, but you also want selectivity. Now this radio, because the frequency is so low, it doesn't have a crystal filter like the I think the BC312 has one. That doesn't have that. But so the first IF can that I've opened, I've already found one bad 0.1 capacitor, which isn't used in the IF can, but it is used in the circuit of the tube that amplifies that. And with that, when that cap is shorted like that, you lose your gain. I think that's it. That's all right for it. That's it for now. I'm getting tired, man. It's what time is it? Let's see. It's 7:30. I've been on this a little bit on and off all during the day, and I think this is the third video today or second video. But I did the video. It came out really nice, but it went out of focus, and I didn't notice it. And I know that drives me crazy. But there it is. That's the inside of the IF can, and one of those capacitors is bad. So I have to do two more IF cans, but not tonight. All right, that's it.